I will call this meeting to order, the regularly scheduled meeting of the Transportation and Public Works Committee, this day, March 3rd, 2015. I am Councilmember Reich. I'll be chairing the meeting, and I'm joined by a quorum of committee members, including Councilmember Yang, Palmisano, Bender, and Gordon. We have 14 items today, including public hearings. There is an amendment to item 11 in the consent agenda that was submitted previously through the clerk's office. And briefly, that is basically to allow for further consideration and analysis of a site location for one of the art objects on Nicollet Avenue to see the feasibility of relocating that in North Minneapolis in relation to a regional park. And so that I will amend item 11, and I'll go through the other items as stated and unamended. We can pull any item for further discussion if a committee member wishes. Consent item number 3 is the 6th Avenue paving project, and approve the project reconstruction for that area, which will go to the dead end north of Washington Avenue, and authorize negotiation of the private property owners to acquire and execute easements and additional right-of-ways if necessary. Item 4 is the 26th Avenue North Street renovation project, and approving a resolution designating the location of improvements for that project, receiving the cost estimate of $3,435,000, directing the city engineer to prepare proposed special assessments against those properties, and to set that public hearing for April 7th, 2015. And also approving a resolution combining the 2014-2015 adopted appropriations, funding sources, and bonding authority for the 2 approved 26th Avenue projects to allow for design, cost management, construction, phasing, and bidding as one large project. That item will be referred to the Ways and Means Committee. Item 5 is authorizing $9,750 to be expended from the Public Works operating budget to allow the 2015 City of Minneapolis participation in the Minneapolis-Duluth Superior Passage Rail Alliance Board for the development of the Northern Lights Express. That'll be referred to Ways and Means. Item 6 is authorizing the amendment to the contract with Kingfield Neighborhood Association, extending the expiration date to September 30th, 2015 to allow for the completion of the Innovative Graffiti Prevention Microgrant Project. Item 7 is authorizing negotiation and execution of an amendment to contract the Waste Management Incorporated to allow for 2 one-year extensions to the term of the contract for the transfer station operation services. That'll be referred to Ways and Means. Item 8 is authorizing the second amendment to the agreement for the Skyway construction, financing, and management maintenance and easements for the proposed for the purpose of clarifying and memorializing the operational and security processes of the Skyway link at 7th Street, TAD Garage to the LaSalle Plaza. That'll be referred to Ways and Means. Item 9 is authorizing negotiation and execution of an agreement with the Minnesota Board of Water and Soil Resource to accept a grant of $399,425 to be used for Lake Nokomis area private stormwater management practices, and increasing the appropriation and revenue for the project by that same amount. That'll be referred to the Ways and Means Committee. Item 10 is the draft 2040 Water Resource Policy Plan, and that's approving the comments pertaining to the Metropolitan Council Draft 2040 Water Resources Policy Plan, and directing the submittal of the comments to the Metropolitan Council by the end of the 45-day comment period. And I'll comment that's great staff work. There's not a standing advisory board for water issues with the Met Council, so we have to sort of go out on our own on that. So I recognize that extra work. Item 11 is the public artwork on Nicollet Mall, approving the following city-owned artwork to be retained on the mall as recommended by the Public Art Advisory Panel and the Minneapolis Arts Commission. Those items are listed, and as noted in the amendment that I attached, the item called Great Blue Heron Loon and Sage Grouse Fountain is going to be pulled from that list for further consideration of an alternative location in North Minneapolis in regards to a regional park up there along the Mississippi River. And item 12 is the bids. There's a series of low bids. They are all low bids for activities of the department as listed. I will move all items unless a council member wants to pull one. Seeing none, I will move all items, noting the amendment to item 11. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Dissenting nay. That carries. We can now move to the public hearing component of the agenda. And item 1 is the 2nd Street North, 21st, 30th, and 33rd Avenue North, 42nd Avenue South, Bloomington Avenue South, and MnDOT 62 frontage road street resurfacing projects. Good morning, Director Kotke.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Mike Kennedy, our Director of Transportation Maintenance for Repair, will make this presentation.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. As Steve said, Mike Kennedy, I'm the Director of Transportation Maintenance and Repair for Minneapolis Public Works. Our first of our two public hearings this morning is for the 2015 resurfacing for a set of projects, 2nd Street North, 21st, 30th, and 33rd Avenue North, 42nd Avenue North, Bloomington Avenue South, and the frontage road, and this is project number 5274. On January 30th, 2015, the City Council designated the location, streets, and improvements proposed to be made in these project areas. Rather than trying to describe them all, I'm just going to show some quick layouts here so we can see where they are. The Bloomington and Frontage Road project is down around the intersection of Crosstown and Cedar, the frontage road along here, and then Bloomington Avenue down from the frontage road down to Richfield city limits, Minneapolis city limits. 42nd Avenue South is in South Minneapolis that ranges from 34th Street to 42nd Street East. And the last set of projects here are 2nd Street North, which includes the little stub outs of 21st Avenue North, 30th Avenue North, and 33rd Avenue North. The street resurfacing special assessments were determined by applying the 2015 uniform assessment rates. Typically, those are 62 cents per square foot and 21 cents per square foot. On the 2nd Street North project, we do have a modification that we're recommending. We have a unique situation here where on 2nd Street North, where as part of the Center Point Beltline Pipeline Upgrade project that occurred in 2014, a significant amount of pavement was removed and restored within the 2nd Street North resurfacing project limits. In recognition of that, Public Works recommends property owners be assessed as follows. On 2nd Street North from 24th to 26th, the Beltline project resulted in full width pavement restoration. No resurfacing work will be done here, so we recommend canceling all proposed resurfacing assessments, essentially removing that 2-block section from the project. On 2nd Street from Plymouth to Washington Avenues, except 24th to 26th, the Beltline project resulted in partial pavement restoration. Partial resurfacing work will be completed, so we recommend assessing properties based on a proportion of the uniform assessment rate that's equal to the percentage of the roadway surface that will be resurfaced. That new proportioned uniform assessment rate for this segment only would calculate out at 51 cents per square foot for non-residential and 17 cents rather than 21 cents for the residential portions. The last little segments we just want to mention, 21st, 30th, and 33rd Avenues north from Washington to 2nd. Those are all full width pavement resurfacing will be completed on these because the pipeline project did not affect those streets at all. So our recommendation today for this project is to amend Resolution 2015 R040 that was passed on January 30th, 2015 to delete 2nd Street North between 24th Avenue and 26th Avenue from the streets to be improved, cancel the previous proposed assessments to properties on 2nd Street North between 24th and 26th Avenue that abut the pavement that will not be resurfaced, and direct the city engineer to return to committee with revised assessment values for 2nd Street North based on a proportion of the uniform assessment rate that is equal to the percentage of the roadway surface that will be resurfaced. We will be sending out revised assessment notices to all the property owners that are affected by this change on 2nd Street North this week. So those folks will get those assessments and have them in plenty of time for the continued public hearing on March 24th. That concludes my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions for staff for the presentation? Councilmember Yang.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Kennedy, with regards to the partial pavement and reducing the, I guess, amount per square footage from, I think it's 62 cents to 51 cents. I mean, does that assume that, I guess, most of that road is done, you know, by 16%, or what does that mean exactly?
Mr. Chair and Councilmember Yang, our engineers went out and surveyed the road fairly accurately, and they found out that there's about 17% of the pavement surface on average in this segment was restored as part of the Beltline project. So the remaining 83% will be resurfaced, and so that same proportion is what we applied to the uniform assessment rate to make those adjustments in the rate that would be applied to those affected properties.
Okay, and Mr. Kennedy, some of the owners on 2nd Street North, I mean, in certain parts they say, our streets were, I guess, improved by 70%, other parts were not, and all that stuff. And, I'm appreciative of the fact that, from 24th to 26th, we just kind of took them out of it. But with regards to certain parts, other folks have said, on 21st, we got a 70% reconstruction, and so why do we have to pay, 51 cents? If you just do the math on that, we should be paying like 15 cents or something like that. And I'm just saying, I know the uniform assessment rates goes and is applied here, but to the extent to which some of the business owners who live on or who work there on 2nd Street North are making those complaints about, I got 70% build out, and why do I have to pay for 51 cents? How do we respond to those folks?
Mr. Chair, Councilmember Yang, it's our recommendation to apply this uniformly across the project area. It would be fairly difficult, and it would take a lot of work to apply exactly the right proportion to each property. It's our position and our belief that this is a reasonable accommodation, understanding that a lot of the pavement out there had been restored as part of this project, and this is our recommendation.
Thank you. Any further questions per the presentation? And it should be noted that the concept is that we're uniformly contributing to the whole system, not the linear square footage that happens to be outside one's property line, knowing that when we use the system, we use the system. So with that, I will open the public hearing. And this is the public hearing for the item described in the presentation, which is item 1. And do we have anyone sign in? No one signed in. Does anyone wish to speak? If so, please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
I own Supreme Marine, which is up on, I have kind of dual frontage, Washington and 2nd. I have a long stretch in there, and we use Washington side, not the 2nd Street side. And 2nd Street has actually been about 80% trucks nowadays. But I got a $10,000 bill for a section that basically the building only takes up a third of the spot and the rest is just parking, but we don't use 2nd Street. I'm actually on both sides of the road. The road is not very wide there, so the property is not very wide there. So, and I think that's just kind of out of hand for me I got Washington and 2nd on either side of me.
Okay. We certainly will take testimony. We have staff here that can speak to you directly offline, and I'll also ask staff to give comment in response to that for the public record. Does anyone else wish to speak? Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
We're on 2nd Street and 4th Avenue. And I see the project is coming all the way up to 33rd, while 34th is the last one, as a crossing street to 2nd. And it's only like 200 feet. And it is all blow up. There is nothing. Every year they come in summer, they try to put fix a batch here, batch there. Still, it's the same thing. It doesn't make any sense. Why the project stopped at 33rd? And it is the last one is 34. That's one thing. The other thing, 51 cents for a square foot, that represents like 1/6 of how much a square foot worth. That's a lot of money to charge that. 17 cents for residential? Why? Why 17 for and 51 for commercial? It's an empty lot. It's not making any money. Why that? It represents like 1/6 of the price of that lot. And I wish the project goes all the way to 34, and this is the last one. This is the last crossing on 2nd Street. So it shouldn't stop at 33rd. At least if we're gonna have to pay for promoting those streets, we have to promote the crossings too. It is related. You cannot avoid it. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll have staff respond to those comments and observations and questions. Anyone else wish to come forward and testify? Anyone wish to come forward? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and ask staff to respond to some questions about influence zone, rate, and even location of the project and crossing, as stated by the people who testified.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, I'll answer the second question first. The project limits here actually go up to 36th Avenue North at the confluence of Washington and 2nd Street. The little block of 34th Avenue North that the question is, I believe is an oil dirt street. It isn't paved. And so we don't resurface the oil dirt streets. It is an unpaved street. And that would be addressed in a different manner through reconstruction. Our street maintenance crews do the best they can to stay ahead of it, but we do know it's in terrible shape. But that's why it's not included in this project, I believe. I'm going to let Suzette Hermstead talk a little bit more about how the exact assessment and the influence area method for the other project, as well as addressing the difference between our commercial rates and our residential rates.
Thank you. And I'll make a comment regarding oil and dirt streets, having more familiarity with them than I would like. Yeah, they get done through the reconstruction project, and I know that you chip away at them every year or so throughout the city. So I understand their unique challenges.
Good morning, council members and Chair Reich. The first question on property that is facing Washington and also has property on 2nd Street. I have our influence area map that shows, I believe this is the block. It is a long, slender block with properties that go through both on Washington and 2nd Street. We divided that block in half so that the property in the influence area for 2nd Street is the property that was assessed, just a small sliver. But if someone has a lot of those lots, it encompasses enough square footage to make the assessment a larger amount. When Washington Street is resurfaced or reconstructed, the part of the property that isn't in the influence area for 2nd Street for this project will be in the influence area for Washington and will be assessed at that time. Sooner or later, the full square footage of a lot will be assessed for one project or another. And what was the other question between residential and non-residential?
Yes.
Non-residential property is assessed at a higher rate than residential. There is a mix of properties in this project. Residential properties have a lesser uniform assessment rate. The usual rate for resurfacing project is 21 cents. For properties on 2nd Street, it's being reduced to 17 cents a square foot. For the prior reconstruction of the street from the Beltline project last year, and non-residential property is typical rate is 62 cents for 2015 projects, being reduced to 51 cents a square foot.
Thank you. Councilmember Yang?
Mr. Hermstead, the business owner that testified, I think his question was, why is that the case?
Why is there a difference in the rates for residential and
it's-
non-residential?
It's quite a substantial difference.
The rates have been set, they're set each year by council action, and they are based on projects that were done many years ago as base projects, as the baseline for our assessments. We took a project that was in a downtown area with mostly non-residential properties as a base project for the construction costs of a non-residential project. And that would be the quantities and the construction materials used. And we took another project that was mostly residential area as a comparable with the construction materials and costs for that area, and those were our baseline projects. There is a difference in the quantities of materials used, and so the non-residential or a commercial area has a greater cost to it than a residential area, and that's why there is a difference in the rates for residential and non-residential properties.
Okay, because my sense is that some business owners would look at this and just basically think that we're assessing them, at a higher rate. I mean, almost 3 times the rate of residential just because they can pay for it. I mean, I've heard that before, and I'm just thinking, I mean, there probably is a good reason. Maybe businesses tend to, maybe have more traffic, and so that's the use is much more a reason for why they're paying more than, let's say, a residential area. And I think, I mean, that'd be helpful just to let people know, I mean, what the reasons behind those assessments are, just so that people get why businesses pay 3 times the amount that a residential area pays. And Mr. Chair, if I may just make a comment with regards to one of the items here. I encourage and I appreciate the continuing in the public hearing with regards to 2nd Street North, just because of the fact that the assessments went out to folks, and now we're changing that, and folks have not received their assessments yet. And so, continuing this allows them to really take it all in and then decide whether they're going to come to a public hearing like this. And I know some of the business owners on 2nd Street North didn't show up today because of that fact that, we had, informed them that we were going to reduce their assessments, at the community meeting. We didn't know what the reduced rate was at that time. And so hopefully within the next couple of days, they will receive the assessment letters. And, I will jokingly say that, when I was at that community meeting, once we gave people that information, I think people were less unhappy, less angry because of that fact. And so, I appreciate the work that Public Works has done in terms of looking at 2nd Street North to really see, what the reconstruction project was like, and to look at, what parts of 2nd Street North could be exempted and were exempted. And so I appreciate all the work that has been done on this.
Okay, well then, to accommodate that, I will adjourn the conversation today for purposes of continuing it to the next regularly scheduled meeting of the committee. Seeing that, oh no, we are just going to please come back. We're going to continue the conversation at the next meeting. So thank you for your comments today, and we will be reopening the conversation in 2 weeks' time. Any further discussion on that? Motion to continue? Councilmember Gordon.
I think that's a fine motion, and I'll support that. I did want to note that looking into that that little piece of 34th makes sense to me, even if it is an oil. Maybe we can confirm that, if it's ever been reconstructed or not, and find out. I'd also be curious about what the added cost might be to actually get some people in there to finish it off. I'm not quite sure how long it is, but I know that I've had some of these little tiny pieces that have hung around in the second ward for a long, long time. and it's great to actually get them constructed, and this looks like it might be one of those. So I could appreciate that. I do understand it's very different, takes a lot longer than a resurfacing, and I think, but a little more information might be helpful. At least I thought I'd weigh in here.
Okay, we'll have that part of the conversation in a couple weeks. Any further discussion? Seeing none on the motion to continue this to the following committee meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Dissenting name. We will continue that at that time. We'll now move to our second public hearing, and that is a public hearing regarding the 9th Street South, 11th Street North South, 12th Street North South, and 7th Avenue North Street resurfacing project. Mr. Kennedy.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, our second public hearing this morning is, as you specified, this is a resurfacing project for 9th Street South, 11th Street South, North and South, and 12th Street North and South, as well as another little sliver of 7th Avenue North in Minneapolis. I'll put a map up on the screen there for you. On January 30th, 2015, the City Council designated the location, streets, and improvements proposed to be made on these projects, or on these streets and neighborhoods. The cost estimate for this project is $1,214,761 and is financed by net debt bonds and special assessments. The locations of the streets are as shown on the map in your packet and on the screen. Again, the street resurfacing special assessments were determined by applying the 2015 uniform assessment rates of 62 cents per square foot for non-residential and 21 cents per square foot for residential. So our recommendation today is to pass a resolution ordering the city engineer to proceed and do the work and adopt special assessments in the amount of $666,841.82 for this project, and pass a resolution requesting the Board of Estimate and Taxation to authorize the city to issue and sell assessment bonds in the amount of $666,845 for this project.
Thank you. Any questions per the presentation? Seeing none, I will then open the public hearing for item 2 as described in the presentation. Anyone sign in? No one signed in. Does anyone wish to address the committee per the public hearing? Anyone wish to present or discuss the item? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and note that I know a lot of communications to the stakeholders are taking place insofar as that there's a lot of work taking place in the downtown area. And thanks staff for that outreach. So with that, I will move the item as described with the actions as described in the presentation. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Dissenting nay. That carries. That concludes our public hearings, and now we can move into the discussion part of the agenda. The first item for discussion is item 13, and that's an update on the organics recycling rollout.
Mr. Chair, so this is a receive and file communications on our organic recycling rollout program, and David Herberholtz, our Director of Solid Waste and Recycling, will make the presentation.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, committee members. Dave Herberholtz, the Director of Solid Waste and Recycling for Public Works. I'm very pleased to be here to present a strategic communication and outreach plan for the implementation of citywide organics. And I'll be joined in this presentation by Angela Bereni from my staff, who's the project manager for the organics program, and also Matt Lively from City Communications. They're one of the many partners that are involved in this initiative. Since the council direction in December, we've done a significant amount of planning and preparing for this presentation and the rollout itself. So just kind of want to go through some of the highlights of the program. Our communications goal, as stated here, is to provide clear organics recycling education to City of Minneapolis solid waste and recycling customers while encouraging customers to sign up and participate in the program. The communications audience is relatively large. It includes all of our City of Minneapolis customers, the media, general public, and council members and all their internal staff. And through the program, we're just looking to keep everybody informed and escalate that willingness to participate in the program. Our communications messaging, got a number of questions here. This program is a little bit different than our one-sort recycling program that was very well, the participation was high in that program due to the involvement in the prior recycling program before one-sort. Organics is a little different. There's a lot of people that really don't know what organics are. So for some of the customers, it's going to be the first that they've heard of this type of recycling. For others that may have been involved in backyard composting, it'll go beyond some of the food scraps to include tissues and other paper, pizza boxes, house plants, things like that. So we're really looking to distinguish between those two and advance the program to show people that there is an awful large amount of organics that can be diverted, including some of the items that you don't want in backyard composting, such as meat and bones and other food soil product. Second question is how do I participate? For those people that would like to participate, we're asking them to understand the program, be committed to it, and to opt in. And as we go on in this presentation, we'll show you how relatively easy it is for those people to sign up and get involved if they want to. When can they start? We're going to have a couple phases of rollout. The initial one will be this fall, and that'll be for 25% of the residents, and the remainder will be in the spring of 2016 for the other 75%. Beneficial and why should you participate? You know, we've got these diversion goals that the city has, and the state and county goals that are upwards of 75% recycling, with 15% of that portion being organic. So that's a good reason to get involved. And this just kind of falls in with our next logical step after one-sort recycling, that we go after that portion of the waste stream that is the highest volume, and that being organics. So they figure that upwards of 30 to 40% of waste is organic material that can be composted. Our communication partners, we've got a few on here that we've listed. Once again, the City of Minneapolis Communications Department, Hennepin County Environmental Services, and the Neighborhood and Community Relations. Hennepin County, as we partnered with them in one-sort, they're very involved in helping us with graphic design and print services, direct mailing pieces, some of the terminology to make it easier to understand what organics are, and just that consistent programming message. Neighborhood and Community Relations, very, very involved in the capitalizing on their expertise to get out in the community to deal with neighborhoods and communicating this message out to them and getting people to participate. Matt will go on and talk about the partnership with communications. In addition, I'd like to mention that we have other contractor support, because Minneapolis Refuse Incorporated will be involved in providing the collection to half the city. And then we also have specialized environmental technologies that will be processing the organics from this program. So with that, I'll have Matt come up, and then Angie will take over after Matt. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Chair Reich, members of the committee, I will be brief, but I do just want to give you a high-level overview of the work the Communications Department will be doing on this in partnership with Public Works, the county, and others. We will be using a variety of strategies and tools, since we want folks to hear about organics recycling multiple times. We think the more people hear about this over the next year or so, the more likely they are to sign up and to participate. Working with Public Works, we've developed a strategic communications plan, which is something we'll be working through in the next year, and it approaches the work in phases as this is rolled out throughout the city. We're able to do any of the work that's coming from our department at no cost using our channels, which include earned media and city-owned communications platforms, and I'll talk more about those in just a second here. As you know, we have a wide range of communications tools we use every day. You see some of them here, and we'll use them consistently as organics recycling rolls out. Again, time to the phases of the rollout, modifying the messaging as we go along to make sure that folks need to know what's going on now, when their opportunities are to sign up, when they'll be getting their carts, all of that kind of thing. In general, our communications tools, I know you're all very familiar with, include our media work, city social media sites, TV channels, and some other platforms. We also plan to leverage our partnerships with Clear Channel Outdoor and a couple of other, Comcast Cable as well, a few other organizations, to help really get the word out broadly through the various phases of this program. And we'll also be doing public service announcements in video form on Comcast Cable. Since this is a really visual topic and we want folks who speak languages other than English to be able to know what's going on and to participate, we'll be producing a variety of videos in multiple languages. That typically includes English, Spanish, Somali, and Hmong. And again, this work is done in-house at no cost and will be an important part of our effort to help people understand organics recycling and encourage them to participate. That's my really high-level summary. Angela Brenny with Solid Waste and Recycling will be going through some more of the tactical end of our plan, so I'll turn it over to her now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, committee members. As stated, my name is Angela Brenny. I'm the designated project manager for the organics recycling rollout. I'm here just to review a few of our key milestones in the rollout program. It's important to point out that in between these milestones, there is other communication pieces taking place. This is a very high-level summary. We start in January of 2015. This was our first soft program launch. It was simply to let customers know that the program would be available. You needed to sign up to participate, and that it would take place in phases, as stated, with the 25% occurring this fall, the remaining 75% in the spring. This month, we're actually transitioning to our hard program launch. This is where we're posting who's in phase 1 and who's in phase 2 in the form of a map on the city's website. We're using the city phone messaging system to both advocate for the program and encourage sign up, and starting our public outreach at community forums and neighborhood events. Our direct mail pieces begin in April. We'll be mailing to all of our customers directly, addressed to resident. The first mailing is to those that have already signed up, saying thank you for participating. You can expect to receive your card in this time frame. The second mailing is for those that have not yet signed up. It's more of a packet giving information about the program, a prepaid postage reply card to sign up, and then with also information on when they start. Like I said, those are mailed directly to resident. To contact the bill payers, which may or may not live at the property, we're partnering this with a utility billing insert with the same details throughout the month of April. Our next milestone is actually in August of this year, where the cart delivery begins. We kick this off with the posting of the phase 1 rollout map. So this will be a week by week who's receiving their cart when posting. This is followed in mid-August with actual cart delivery. 1 week prior to cart delivery, each of our customers will receive a mailing advising cart placements coming in the next week. This will include a welcome kit. The kit is pretty in-depth. It includes information on what to include, what not to include, tips on how to set up your home, answers to frequently asked questions, a packet of compostable bags, a list of local kitchen pail and compost bag retailers, and also some coupons to purchase the supplies that they may desire or need to participate. And then finally, a quick reference magnet. Sorry, I knew that would happen. Okay, the pilot program. In September, we're going to be notifying our pilot customers that their carts are going to be exchanged with the city standard cart. They'll receive a very similar letter to those in phase 1, just explaining that this will be a cart exchange rather than just a cart delivery, and they'll receive the same welcome kit. The next communication push is in October. This is our first We Haven't Heard From You postcard. This goes to any resident on a property that has not yet signed up to participate. And at this time, we're also going to touch on holiday organics, how to handle the gourds, pumpkins, and any holiday food scraps. Now we're jumping ahead to April 2016. This is the beginning of phase 2 where we're gearing up. This will be our second "We Haven't Heard From You" postcard for those residents that still have not signed up to participate. But we will also be promoting "Can Organic Recycling Save You Money?" rather than just mentioning it. And this is the promotion of our new small cart. So you have 30% more capacity for the same $2 per month fee. This is $3 less than the large cart. In April of 16, we also kick off the community forums and neighborhood events. A lot of them start to pick up in the spring. We'll be attending those to promote the program. Cart delivery begins in May. We kick this off similar to phase 1 with the posting of the delivery areas by week on the city website in the form of a map. This will be a user-friendly map that is address searchable. It's extremely important with 75% of the city receiving their carts in this phase so that customers can drill down to their address and see what week they're actually in, especially for those that are right on the border from one week to the next. This runs concurrent with actual cart delivery, which takes place, or starts, I should say, in May as well.
I will note that the map that we had was a placeholder image, not the map.
It is not the map, you are right. So phase 2 cart delivery does begin in May. Phase 2 receives the same type of packet that phase 1 receives. So they get the letter explaining the cart's going to be coming in the next week and then the full welcome kit. I think it's important to note that with 75% of the city being in phase 2, this will not be a quick rollout. We expect the rollout to continue into June and complete in June. So the first full month of organics recycling citywide will be in July. So at this stage, I'd like to turn it back to our director for some information on our continued communication plan and closing. Thank you.
Thank you. Our communications will continue after the full rollout and everybody is participating in the program. We're looking to do ongoing evaluation, continued promotion with the idea that we want as many people as possible to participate in this program. So a few of the milestones, we'll look at it 6 months, a year, but as I said, ongoing. And we'll continue to use communications methods such as news releases and news bites that will funnel up to your offices. The website will always update that and encourage people to refer to that, and then some direct email to the Organics Recycling Group. I think as of today, through the initial sign-up, we've got well over 1,000 that are on that Organics Recycling email group. So very effective way of communication. And then our messages, we'll in those messagings and that we'll try to give them benchmarks that we're attaining, materials diverted. Once again, with the encouragement to sign up, talk about how they may be able to save money with, if they're able to reduce the volume of their trash significantly and they have a larger cart, they have the option of obtaining a smaller cart. Once again, I think the keys behind it is we're looking to have continued consistent promotion. We're going to encourage at the neighborhood level, and that I think the boots on the ground after this full rollout and that is really going to work out well, and continue to stress that residents understand, be committed to this program, because we've got to ensure that this product is clean and not contaminated. The worst we could do is to have this program just be another way to divert some trash. So with this, this concludes my presentation. We're available for questions, and I thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions? Start with Councilmember Gordon, followed by Councilmember Bender.
Thank you, and I appreciate getting all this information. I have about 3 questions maybe. My first question has to do with the people in the pilots now. I think there was a slide that talked about changing out their carts, but I know we have some pilots going on in the city right now. Are those people going to be considered part of phase 1, and are they going to get new carts?
Mr. Chair, Councilmember Gordon, yes, they will be included in the phase 1, and the replacement of their carts will not take place until September.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. I heard in that slide, it went by a little quickly for me though. And now I'm wondering how and when will we decide who else is in phase 1?
We are working today, and I think I saw some council members kind of looking for a map in that.
Yeah.
We're working with our contractor right now, MRI, and hope to within today, next few days, is to have phase out, or the phase for their rollout of the program to incorporate with ours to get a full map on the phase 1, phase 2 rollout.
What's the criteria, or how are you going to make that decision? And we want to make sure it's your decision and not, we won't have a fight about it up here.
With it, it's I guess primarily based on, with them on, they've got a little more complicated arrangement with their haulers that are involved in their program. So they've had an awful lot of discussion there on just which members of their organization are going to get involved with organics collection, because it won't be all of them. So what the discussions there, and the reason they've taken a while, is getting a commitment from some of those haulers on their side, and then deciding what areas it makes most sense to roll it out in.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, it could just be the city side. So, I mean, how are we going to decide which side are we going to have some?
Well,
we already decided it's just going to be the MRI side. Does that, my question makes sense?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Gordon, we will be rolling out 25% this fall to both our side and MRI side. So it'll be a mix. We'll both be hauling approximately two full routes each.
Okay, appreciate that. So there'll be some geographic balance. My last question had to do with the boot. You mentioned boots on the ground, reaching out to neighborhoods. Is there any funding or any support to help them or us actually get door knocking or canvassing going? Are we going to just provide brochures and publicity and education for them, or are we going to provide any other resources to help us do the outreach?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Councilmember Gordon, I think the idea, I'm not sure if there's specific funds available right now, but our idea is that we've got a commitment from Neighborhood and Community Relations to be involved as a partner in this program. Some of the resources that we're looking at right now that haven't been established yet are the involvement of maybe some step-up interns that would be able to do some door-to-door canvassing. We were involved in some of the community engagement activities that were done this past year, and in that I was able to meet with some members of the communities there where they had talked about wanting to be involved in doing some door-to-door canvassing, and whether it was specific to recycling or organics or some other measures of solid waste. So yeah, we're open to any and all resources.
It seems to me like the council might be open to it. Also, that we could turn to the county for some assistance, and just a little bit of money might go a long way to actually then allow some people to devote significant time to this to help us get more participation. So I'll be interested in following that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Bender.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a comment following up on the question about the map. We will likely have to, so there's a lot of excitement about this in the community, which I think is great. So we'll just have to be able to give a reasoned answer about why some neighborhoods were chosen and not others for phase 1, whatever that is, just as a comment. Especially, particularly, I'm thinking about my ward. If some of my neighborhoods are in phase 1 and others are not, just to be able to communicate why those decisions were made. And then I also have a ward where a lot of people live in buildings that are more than 4 units. And I frequently get questions that I'm always interacting with staff about. Folks are excited about organics, composting, and want to be able to participate. And of course, we don't operate those collections. But I wondered if there is some sort of effort where we could sort of have a centralized place to send people for information about how they might work with their building manager, or, our drop-off sites I know are publicly available. But I just wanted to kind of raise that issue again, because I frequently get asked about folks who are living in 5+ unit buildings.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Councilmember Bender, we also will continue to promote on our website, try to encourage drop-off efforts for those individuals that may be involved in multifamily. I think the partnership with Hennepin County and some of their focus on multifamily and commercial with regards to organics will be a common element of this program.
Thank you. Councilmember Palmisano.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Huber-Holtz, just a question about our current drop-off sites. As you know, the drop-off sites in in Southwest anyway, I think get real good use. It's also a great opportunity that has started to educate people and draw excitement into the curbside composting effort. I'm curious, because I know a lot of people in the 4+ unit dwellings use those drop-off sites. Will they continue? That's a question that we've received, and that I'm not sure what, if we know yet, but will the drop-off sites that exist now continue because they serve residents that aren't 1 to 4 dwellings?
Mr. Chair, Councilmember Palmisano, I think the idea is that this program and the rollout is going to be a multi-year project, is that we'll continue those drop-offs because some residents may still want to participate even though they're not involved in the initial first phase. And I think the idea then will continue to evaluate, and I think as of right now, I don't think we've made a commitment totally to continue the drop-offs after full implementation of the alley or curbside program. So I think it's to be determined.
Thank you.
Well, and on that note, I do appreciate that we're still continuing that program because it is, I think, a great ambassador to the concept. I know when I go out to the community meetings, those who have the drop-off sites are much more engaged because they're already engaged in that level of activity in terms of their conversation and understanding of the rollout. And in addition to that, when we have staff going out, we've had very lively conversations with the public, and I contribute that to staff's great presentation skills, but also the subject matters is catching a lot of people's interest. And who knew that it would be such lively conversations around municipal waste at the neighborhood level, but it's happening. And so I think that'll be one of our stronger fronts, though social media, of course, will be in the mix. Any further questions for the staff? Seeing none, I will move to receive and file. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Dissenting nay. Thank you very much for the work.
Thank you all.
Forward. We'll now come to our last item on the agenda. Thank you for the patience for those who are presenting. Director Kaki.
Mr. Chair, we have another receive and file item for you. This is the Blue Line, update on the Blue Line light rail transit extension, or what we used to refer to as Botno. We're really pleased that Metro Transit is here today just to give us kind of what I call a general update, both for yourselves as well as our viewing audience. But we'll start the presentation with Don Flom, who is our transportation planner.
Morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and council members. As Steve mentioned, we'll be talking about the Blue Line Extension project today, which is formerly the Botno corridor, for those who have been tracking this project for quite some time. This project serves the northwest suburbs in addition to Minneapolis. We're going to get into the details here in a minute here, but we are part of the preliminary engineering process. And what I wanted to note here is that we are, as city staff, having weekly meetings with the project office. These meetings consist of staff from not just Public Works, but CPED and the Park Board have been attending these meetings. And I just have to say that these meetings have just started up at the beginning of the year, and there's just a tremendous amount of collaboration and cooperation happening to get this project rolling, and they have been extremely responsive to the comments that we made with the draft environmental impact statement. Real quick, I'd just like to recognize 3 individuals who are here from the Botno project office. We have Mark Furman, our director of New Starts for the region. He is here. Tremendous amount of experience in working with practically every New Starts project in this region. Hiawatha, North Star, Central Corridor, Southwest, and now the Blue Line Extension. Dan Solar, our presenter today, is the director of the Botno project office. Tremendous amount of experience there as well. I first got to know Dan when he was working for Ramsey County, and then on Central Corridor. And then we also have Sophia Guinness here today, who's our community engagement liaison, and she is also our community engagement liaison for Southwest. So one other thing I'd like to mention, if you could just keep your questions until the end, they're happy to answer any questions you have. Let's get through the presentation first. So Dan, come on up.
Thanks, Don. Thanks, Steve. Chair, members of the committee. Thanks for having us here today. As Don said, my name's Dan Solar, and I am the project director for the Blue Line Extension Project for the city of Minneapolis. This is LRT number 4, as we can sometimes think of it as. For me, this is LRT number 2. So I spent the last 7 years working on the Green Line project, Central Corridor. Councilmember Gordon, in his ward, worked with him and his staff on a number of elements to successfully bring that project forward. And now myself and some of the members of our team on the Green Line project have transitioned to the Blue Line extension. We're going to just do a little bit of a project overview today and talk about some of the key issues in Minneapolis. This 2040 transitways map identifies the long-term vision of the metro area. And of course, this Blue Line extension is just one more piece in that continued expansion of transitways in the metro area, and really a key piece for the northwest region of the metropolitan area. The Blue Line itself brings LRT from downtown Minneapolis out to the northwest suburbs in Hennepin County. And so it really focuses as a key piece on there as a light rail extension for that part. As Don mentioned, Met Council has just recently, as of maybe late last year, kind of moved now from Hennepin County leading the draft environmental impact statement on this project and now turning it on to Met Council in our role. So a little bit about the project for folks that don't know everything about it. It is about a 13-mile extension of light rail from Target Field Station in downtown through Minneapolis, on in through Golden Valley, Robbinsdale, Crystal, and up to Brooklyn Park. 10 or 11 new LRT stations, and I'll talk a little bit about the difference in those number of stations. We then have a 1-seat LRT line, Mall of America to northwest Brooklyn Park. And so it includes then that entire length through downtown Minneapolis, connects with the Green Line in downtown, as you all know. So then you're able to move from any of those stations either southwest down to Eden Prairie or east all the way over to St. Paul, connects with a lot of bus services and North Star. So really puts in an important link into the system as we see it. Where we kind of take over, where Met Council has kind of entered back into the process here, is we've now moved into, in August of 2014, last year, the federal New Starts program in a 2-year phase called Project Development. Now that's a little something new than we didn't have on Central Corridor on South or on Southwest, where we now have the opportunity in the next 2 years from August 2014 to August 2016, advance through this project development phase. And it really brings up 3 key issues that we need to meet in that 2-year process. We've got to get through our environmental work and our environmental study and put a record of decision together with the federal government to complete the federal environmental impact statement. We've got to get through the all-important municipal consent process, whereby we're able to work with our municipalities like Minneapolis, put a plan together, bring that to the city for approval, and also kind of put all the local funding pieces in place for the project. And that's our goal, and that's a very definitive set work that our project office has over this next 2-year period. Next 2-year period, which is now, I think, as I look at the countdown, about less than 18 months. So we're 6 months into that, and as Don mentioned, therefore we have regular needs to meet with a lot of different stakeholders to reach decisions to bring this project forward. So in the overall schedule, as you can see, that would be followed by engineering and putting together plans and finalizing the project, number of years of construction after that. after following getting a full funding grant agreement in 2018 with the hope that this line would then be open in sometime in 2021. So again, like Central Corridor was 7 years, 2014 to 2021, it's 7 years. That I think sometimes seems like about a week. It goes by pretty quickly. Project is very similar to the other New Starts projects in the region. We would look to secure 49% in federal FTA New Starts funding for the project, the other 51% being made up of either CTIB dollars from the county's Transit Improvement Board, from Hennepin County Regional Rail, or from the state. And so that right side of the pie, finalizing up those funding pieces, is part of also our 2-year process here. So as we got the project at Met Council from Hennepin County, as we pulled it into our project office and started to identify technical issues, we identified technical issues along the entire alignment. This really breaks down the Minneapolis piece. So you see the east-west piece that goes from Target Field Station, essentially comes from up in the air down to Olson Memorial Highway and moves east-west on Olson Memorial Highway to where the railroad crosses underneath Highway 55, Olson Memorial Highway, on the east side of Theodore Wirth Park. And that's where we make a turn, and we then head down to the BNSF railroad alignment, and we follow the BNSF railroad alignment with our Bottineau LRT project for the next 8 miles. So really, it's that east-west piece that is most critical in the city of Minneapolis. This list kind of identifies some of the key issues that we're working on in the project office. So how do we connect to Target Field, which, as you know, is up in the air, and how do we bring that rail line down through the 7th Street intersection at grade? That's part of what we're working on now. As we go east-west, what happens over the I-94 bridge? What are the impacts to traffic movements and impacts to the bridge? What about intersections of Penn and Van Wyck? And what does Highway 55 look like? LRT in the middle. So is it a little bit like it is on University Avenue? Not as much like Hiawatha, will be in the middle. So we'll have traffic on both sides, turning movements at some spots, traffic signals along there. That whole median there is full of trees along there that the park board has. What's going to happen with that? How are we going to treat that? And then as we make the turn at Olson Memorial Highway, we kind of keep the LRT down, bring the roadway over the LRT, and then drop down on the railroad tracks. And if you've looked down there, you know all along there, the soils, wetlands, those kind of things, the environmental impacts that are tied to that are very critical. Another issue that's important to the city of Minneapolis, though it's listed as a Golden Valley issue because both these stations are physically in the city of Golden Valley, is do we build a station at Plymouth Avenue, do we build a station at Golden Valley Road, or do we build both? And that's one that we've really been engaging with the community on quite a bit. The original draft environmental impact statement assumed one of the stations would be built, the one at Golden Valley Road, but it did make sure to environmentally include both of them so that the project could move forward should we make a decision at this point to continue both those stations forward and bringing them through the community. So we have had some public meetings, most recently even last Thursday. We had quite a significant attendance, both Minneapolis and Golden Valley residents, to talk a little bit about and provide input about their thoughts about those stations. The Plymouth station serves, it's mostly Theodore Wirth Park to the west and Minneapolis residents to the east. And then, of course, the Golden Valley Road station is got residential properties around both cities there. So a fairly significant issue that we're working on right now. And then some of the more critical system-wide issues is primarily how we negotiate and finalize our agreements to utilize that 8 miles of the BNSF rail corridor from Trunk Highway 55 all the way up to Brooklyn Park. And of course, that's going to be a very key, significant issue as we move the project forward. So in closing, we have the issue resolution teams. This is a fairly similar process to what we used on Central Corridor and what we've used on Southwest, where we have our issue resolution teams that meet with staff and other folks to kind of bring together issues that we want to bring forward for consideration. The Technical Project Advisory Committee, which makes up City of Minneapolis technical staff as well as others, helps influence those pieces, which then also move forward to both a Community Advisory Committee and a Business Advisory Committee. We've asked all of our municipalities to assist in putting members forth for those committees, including Minneapolis. Those memberships are due later this week, so I know the city is working on putting that together. That then makes recommendations to the Corridor Management Committee, Minneapolis representatives being both Councilmember Johnson and Mayor Hodges. So that's how we'll move pieces through. Again, to get them through, bring them up to the Corridor Management Committee so that when we, hopefully, what our goal is in the Bottineau Project Office is, if we work these issues out as we put together our final environmental work and then eventually a municipal consent plan, we're able to bring forth a municipal consent plan that has pretty much agreement among most of the agencies before we present it. So always coordination and outreach is very critical of the project offices. So as you can see, I talked a little bit about this meeting we had last Thursday to talk about the station areas. We are coordinating with the Sea Line, Bottineau, or bus rapid transit project, the BRT project, which is going to come down Penn and then make the turn on Penn and also come down Olson Memorial Highway into Minneapolis. And so we're coordinating with them. And of course, we have numerous and frequent public meetings all the time and will over the next long length of this project. So that's a fairly quick introduction. I appreciate the time and certainly I'm available for any questions council members may have.
Any questions per the presentation? Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you very much. Glad that you're here. Good to see you again. I like evoking images and thoughts of the green line as part of all of this today rather than another line, but it's hard not to think of them all, of course. And one thing that brought to my mind when you were looking at the timeline was, are we going to have the environmental impact statement completed and in prior to municipal consent? And are we trying to line up those? Because I think it's much easier for us to have all the information that we need prior to municipal consent, and that EIS could be important.
Mr. Chair, Councilmember Gordon, they are really right now moving on a parallel path. And so we're gathering all the data in order to prepare the final environmental impact statement. And I would expect that we will be in the production of the final documents for review by FTA of the final environmental impact statement at the time that we are also presenting municipal consent plans to the city. So they are done parallel, but in essence, hopefully the decisions that are necessary to influence both of those two things, plans and the environmental impact statement, are decided so that both can be put together.
Well, that would be good. I get the impression that we're still waiting to get the environmental impact statement from Southwest finalized and back from the feds. So sometimes these parallel timelines don't really converge when we would like them to. So I think the more information we can have and the more that's complete, the better that it will be. I'm also curious about the park board process and any issues you've identified with the park board, because this line looks like it's also hugging and taking a little park property there along Theodore Worth. And should we be expecting the same degree of concerns and turmoil over that as we may have on the original Hiawatha that went through Minnehaha Park, or the Southwest that's coming up through the lakes? Can you give us any indication of how that's going so far?
Councilmember or Chair and Councilmember Gordon, I would certainly not say, oh, no, we're expecting no problems. No, it is like all these projects, similar and different. In this case, we are through, if you will, Theodore Worth Park for a long time, but we are on BNSF Railroad right-of-way. Now, that doesn't mean that it isn't, impacting the park. It is on railroad right-of-way, and there are some pieces of parkland that will be impacted, but also issues to the floodplain, issues to wetlands, because wetlands are wetlands, whether they're on railroad property or not on railroad property, noise impacts, all of the similar types of things. So we have begun in all the hard work that the Southwest Project Office has done with working with the Park Board in the most recent past here. We are certainly beginning that, and we have those folks, as Don mentioned, from staff meeting with us regularly. We've had some input with the commissioners as well. And again, we hope to just build upon any past history to get them involved early, to get their collaboration, and again, to work out any issues that are impacted as part of it. They've also weighed in and will want to continue to weigh in on the thoughts about the Plymouth Avenue Station, because that really does then provide a park board level station, if that's their desire to have something. And to date, they've said that's something they would like to see.
And that was kind of my last comment too. I think, of course, we need to have the Plymouth Avenue Station. I think that some of us are still smarting a little bit that we didn't get more of the line actually in the city proper and Broadway and more stations that could meet more people. So that means those few stations that are touching the city, it's more critical that they're there, they're functioning, and that we also have good access to them for city residents and workers. So those connections will be really important, which I think we've paid attention to on other stations out there. This is, I can't speak for the committee or the whole council or anything, but I think that Plymouth Avenue Station is really key and it's important. And I would say Golden Valley Station is fine too. I'm not sure about the timing and all of this and where you're trying to get, and I know stations can add more time, but it would make total sense to me to put both of those stations in.
Thank you, Councilmember Bender.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I also wanted to spend some time talking about how the project team is looking at ways to maximize the access to these stations, particularly for our residents in Minneapolis. So could you talk about how there might be coordination with Metro Transit to make sure that, there'd be good transit access to these stations? Again, with this alignment not serving directly some of those neighborhoods, how are we going to work with our regional partners to make sure that our residents are fully served by this excellent transit service?
Mr. Chair, Councilmember Bender, certainly in the north side, we're trying to coordinate a number of different things that are going on as well. I talked a little bit about the BRT project on Penn down to 55. We have our Botno LRT project. There's a study on West Broadway as well, a transit study going on West Broadway that talks about some possibilities that might happen there. And of course, like anything else, we will, once we kind of get set where the station locations are going to be, and that's pretty much set with this decision yet about Plymouth and Golden Valley Road. Then developing a bus connection plan will be critical. I mean, I know on Central Corridor very early, we developed a fairly significant bus network plan that went into effect on opening that added some additional routes, put some additional connections in place. So we'll be working with our colleagues at the bus group with regard to that. Pedestrian, bicycle, drop off. These stations are a little different. These are more, the stations on the Minneapolis Golden Valley side are a little more like Central Corridor stations than they are like some of the ones that'll be out in Brooklyn Park, where there will be some fairly significant park and ride structures and things like that. So how we get people there, I mean, station's only as good as the ability for people to use it, which means they have to be able to get there. So that is certainly something that as a project team, both with our city staff representatives and other both county and Metro Transit folks, will look at ways to make that work.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. That's great to hear. And you raised this issue too, and I think this might be something both for you and maybe our own city staff to talk about. But the pedestrian access piece seems really important in these urban stations. And also, as you mentioned, Olson Memorial Highway is a very challenging road right now for pedestrian safety and access and mobility. So how is this project going to work with that constraint and that challenge to make sure that these stations are accessible and safe for people coming by foot?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Councilmember Bender, that's a key piece. When you go back to the issue resolution chart, design options for what Highway 55 is going to look at is a significant issue here. We're just going to build this train in the middle, right? And so, but by building a train in the middle, by putting that there, it's going to impact Highway 55. So what does it look like when it goes back in? Is it still 6 lanes? Does it have a lot of, well, I don't know about tunnels. We don't like to talk about tunnels, but what about pedestrian crossings? How many lanes? Where are they going to be? It won't be, as we know, and I certainly know well from my work on Central Corridor, you don't get, right now you can kind of cross wherever you want. I mean, yes, you should cross that traffic signals at Highway 55, but there's some both designated non-signalized crossings and some what you'd call dirt path in median undesignated pedestrian crossing locations today. With a railroad in the middle, that's going to be different. And so now you've got a railroad, you've got 4 lanes, 6 lanes, 2 lanes, turn lanes. What does the final road look like so that then you can consolidate pedestrian crossings, and where you put them might be more defined, but then they're also there and they're safe in their spot. So that's been a key piece that comes both from the community whenever we have community engagement with the local neighborhoods as well as city and county and MnDOT staff. The difficulty with Highway 55, it's a MnDOT trunk highway in the city of Minneapolis with LRT down the middle, so get a lot of players to work with.
Thank you. Councilmember Gordon, and then we are joined by Mr. Guinness from the mayor's office, who will also address us at the podium.
Great. Well, I made a small gesture there that evoked the image of a tunnel, but I just wanted to maybe say grade separation. And I know this might not be possible, but if you think of all the traffic problems that we've had with the Blue Line Phase 1 on Hiawatha, if there had been any effort, we did do a significant separation on Lake Street, of course, but there's all sorts of other intersections with traffic that have created enormous problems. And if we could have just dipped, done something to separate those grades, it would have been incredible. I don't know if there'd be a chance for any kind of bike pedestrian bridges or access or what we could do about that, but I just don't want to take it off the table. And sometimes if you just think of grade separation, it's not quite as onerous as thinking of a tunnel.
Good point.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Guinness?
Thank you, council members. As Dan said, Mayor Hodges is the city's delegate on the Bottineau Corridor Management Committee. And so we've had the opportunity to have 3 or 4 meetings at this point. And this issue of getting Olson right is absolutely essential. It is one of 2 things that I feel like we've already made progress on in terms of learning the lessons from Southwest. But let's just explore that a little bit more if we could. We're keeping an open mind to all the possibilities in terms of grade separation, including bridges. But the mayor's fear is that having that conversation about, for example, pedestrian bridges over Olson Memorial Highway might have the effect of declaring surrender, that Olson is always going to be as hostile to pedestrians as it is today. And that's just not acceptable. Whether or not there was a train in the center of it, the current conditions of Olson are really bad. And not just bad vis-a-vis LRT and the opportunity for existing riders, but bad vis-a-vis the opportunity for development. One of the good things we have about this alignment, even though we have, as you pointed out, only 2 stations, is on Olson Memorial Highway, there's a lot of land that is owned by the public sector. So we have the ability to influence development in a way that we didn't on any of the other previous lines. far fewer stations, but at those stations, we do have an ability to influence their development future, bringing jobs, bringing housing, bringing economic opportunity to the community, not making people simply seek economic opportunity elsewhere outside the city, which if that's all we did, we would consider this a failure relative to the size of the investment. So how do we capture that investment, the value of that investment through development? Well, if people feel from the front door of that development, jobs, housing, retail, whatever it is, that they've got to cross a football field and a football field length with, 7 lanes of traffic, because it's 6 lanes plus a continuous turn lane, that's going to significantly impede development. I think a number of you had the opportunity to hear from Gil Penalosa when he spoke about 880 cities, making sure that we were designing cities for 8-year-olds and 80-year-olds. Olson Memorial Highway, let's speak frankly about it, is designed for maximum throughput of vehicles. One of the things Gil Penalosa talked to us about is that you can't just design for peak hour traffic. Right now, Olson Memorial Highway is designed for peak hour traffic. It is designed to flow as best as possible for automobiles in the peak hour. And it's pretty bad the other 22 hours of the day for everybody else. Well, excuse me, it's bad for everybody 24 hours a day, and it's overbuilt 22 hours of the day. So here's a couple of things that we're doing at the city to try and make sure that when we're presented with these options for what we can do with Olson, that we really fully explore those. We've reached out to the city of Plymouth. Plymouth shares Olson Memorial Highway with us. It's important to them that Olson Memorial Highway continue to function well. One piece of its future function is as a transit corridor. Not as a transit corridor for Bottineau. They don't benefit from Bottineau. When you get to the city border, Bottineau takes a hard right and goes largely straight north. So we've reached out to the city of Plymouth to talk about how future bus rapid transit on Olson could potentially benefit them and benefit us. That's one of the ways we want to pave the way for a productive conversation, so that we can look at Olson in an entirely new light, which is a prerequisite if we want to get the maximum value out of this, because there will be trade-offs. There isn't going to be a scenario where we maintain 7 lanes of traffic exactly as it is today, and we dramatically improve the pedestrian experience. There are going to be trade-offs, and we need to wrestle with those and come up with the right balance that makes sure the road continues to function, but also that we're not wasting a $1 billion investment in terms of what it could provide on Olson. Mr. Chair, let me also, as long as I'm here, let me also speak to the membership of the Corridor Management Committee. Another crucial component of learning a lesson from Southwest LRT is the membership of the CMC. We've talked about our frustrations with that, and it's worth noting we've talked about the contrast on Southwest. The city of Edina has a vote on the Southwest CMC, even though they're not directly affected, and the park board does not. That is bewildering to us. But even before this recent negotiation with the park board resulting in progress for Southwest, that has already been rectified. The park board already has, and we appreciate the Met Council reaching out. We appreciate the Met Council reaching out to the park board. They have been a member of the Corridor Management Committee on Bottineau from the beginning. That's not a guarantee that the issues that we struggle with will be addressed easily. But at the very least, we are learning the lesson of Southwest and making sure that the people who should be at the table have a voice.
Thank you for that. Any further questions or comments? Do you want to represent?
That's our piece today, Mr. Chair. So any other questions, fine. Otherwise, we'll continue to work with staff and the committee and full council as necessary in order to continue to advance the project.
Well, thank you for that. See none, I'll just comment and thank you for the work that's being done. Thank you for being here and presenting. It was a great presentation, and it just gives a sort of outline sketch of the enormity of planning that goes into a project of this scale. And so thank you for that. And thank you, Mr. Guinness from the Mayor's Office, for those comments as well in the conversation we had with council members. So with that, I will move to receive and file the presentation as given. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Dissenting nay. Thank you very much, and we are adjourned.